Hey y'all, it's EJ Johnson, and today we are off the porch, and I'm excited because we are here with DJ Johnson, who is the founder of Baldwin Company, also a New Orleans native and a graduate of the Clark Atlanta University. So DJ, thank you so much for allowing us to speak with you today.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so, as a former educator, I'm really excited to ask you this question. I know that literacy rates are low in Louisiana, especially here in the city of New Orleans. And so, why is it so important for Baldwin Company to do so much in terms of literacy here in the community?
You know, when we think about creating a better society, we think about how we want a better community. So when you think about the issues that plague New Orleans around education, around crime, around environmental issues, around health, it all comes back to literacy. Literacy is that key that elevates our social status, our economic status, our education status. It creates a better society. Majority of our issues that plague the city result from individuals not being able to read. So at Baldwin Company, we focus on using the power of books to help eradicate mass incarceration, diminish poverty, and boost economic in the infrastructure and within the community. Because from that is where we are able to create a better community and a better society and better living conditions for everybody. So I think that's why we've chose reading, because I think it's the most important tool that anyone can use to elevate their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact you mentioned community several times. And so, as a follow up to that, I would love to know, I know that your parents were really instrumental in your life. And what kind of advice would you give to parents, community leaders, mamas, papas, parents, when they're thinking about the youth and how they can really get them and encourage them to be more in terms of literacy and getting them involved?
Man, we just got to really create a reading community. Like we have to really prioritize literacy and reading. And not just say it. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, you know, you should read more, or I want to read more, but we don't prioritize it. You know, I hear a lot of people just say, oh, I don't have time to read. And I think one of the things is we have time for everything we prioritize. You know, so, and it's not to critique anyone on how they use their time. I'm just saying that if literacy is that key, if I told you, hey man, this is the one thing that if you do this 10 minutes a day, it can elevate every element of your life. Would you create space for it? 10 minutes a day, that's all I'm asking. Would you create space for it? Yeah. The answer would be absolutely yes. Especially if it doesn't require you to sacrifice your morals, your values, or do anything ridiculous that may bring you harm. It's just sitting down and reading for 10 minutes a day. So, and I tell you what reading for 10 minutes a day can do, and particularly if we do this ourselves and we do this with our children. You read for 10 minutes a day, the average person is going to read about 10 pages, a page a minute. The average book is 300 pages. So if you read 10 pages a day for 30 days, you've just read a book a day. You've had people that said that they haven't read a book in 30 years. But if you just dedicate 10 minutes a day to reading a book, then that 10 minutes a day over a 12-month span comes out to be 12 books. Imagine what that does. Imagine how that elevates your mindset, your level of thinking, your rationale, the way you make decisions, just the way you speak. It elevates every aspect of your life. So now when you're going for a promotion, you have more tools. Now when you're in social circuits, you have more things to talk about. You articulate things better. You're able to formulate points differently. When you go to the doctor, you're able to understand and comprehend those doctor visits and the feedback that the doctor gives you. You have a better understanding of how the things that we do impact the climate and impact our environment. You have a better understanding of political talk when individuals are asking for your vote and your representatives are maybe misrepresenting you or not representing you in the way, in the manner that you see appropriate. Now you are able to articulate a voice in response to them to say, hey, I would like for you as your constituent to vote this way on this matter. So now you're more informed. Those are the things that if we simply do 10 minutes a day, it can have a massive impact on our life. So if you're asking me, like, what can parents do? What can individuals do? What can we do in our households? Hey man, just read for 10 minutes a day.
I absolutely. First of all, now I'm excited to go home and read. So I'm excited. Let me go and do some more reading. And so I love that you put it in that way, in that 10 minutes a day, and how much it can really impact our youth and us, even as adults as well. And so, with that being said, I know there's an upcoming event. You're an HBCU alum with one of our
Yes.
local HBCUs here at Xavier University, where we have author Ta-Nehisi Coates and MSNBC's Joy and Reid. And so, talk to us about that event. Why is it so important? Why should people be getting involved with this upcoming event?
So today we currently are in a society where we have lost our ability to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think particularly this is amplified through social media to whereas we run to our echo chambers. Public discourse is diminishing in terms of individuals who have public dialogue without being canceled. You know, a lot of people are pandering to different particular special interests or to particular groups because way media is developed today, it's like if you say something that can particularly be inappropriate or particularly something that offsets someone, a particular group, then you live in this age of cancel culture, and then the dialogue just doesn't exist. This is a way on how we have that public discourse. This is a conversation on how we have conversations. Ta-Nehisi, in the new book, The Message, one of the things that he talks about are three very controversial issues. He talks about book banning in South Carolina. He talks about slavery in the Senegal in West Africa, and he also talks about the Israel-Palestine issues. These are three very difficult conversations. What he's doing in Joy and Reid, what she's doing in this event is they're bridging the gap on how we come together as people and have these tough conversations, how we have public dialogue that progresses us in the future. Because without this, then we can no longer progress as a society. It requires us to have conversations, to work through our disagreements and develop empathy for each other through these efforts, through this event, through this dialogue. You're going to discover parts of yourself. You're going to discover how we can have effective dialogue. And it's not just about those issues, but have effective dialogue with our mother, our sisters, our brothers, our peers. There's a gentleman that came in here one day, and he was talking about what this space does. And he said, man, there was something about this space that made me call a friend that I hadn't talked to in such a long time. He said we had fell out. We had an argument about the political divide that's happening in the country. And we hadn't talked for months, a disagreement. He said there was something about this space, so as I called him and I asked him to meet me here. And when we met, one of the things that we talked about, we've been friends for too long to not have a dialogue about how do we respect each other's ideas, develop empathy for each other, because we both come from two different worlds, but our shared experiences created us. Our individual experiences shaped our identity, but it is the empathy for our shared experiences that will shape our future. And we have to learn how to have that discourse. That's what this event does. It's transformational, and not just the topics of book banning or slavery or reparations or Israel, Palestine. It's transformational how we view these issues and how we have these conversations to progress to a better society.
You know, I really enjoyed the work that you use empathy, because I feel like that really sums up the work that y'all do here so much. And so that's really powerful. And so how can folks get tickets? How do they show up to make sure they're attending this event and really getting to be a partake of this conversation?
Well, there's two ways. You can go to baldwincoldbooks.com, which is our standard website, or you can go to Ta-Nehisi.eventbrite.com. Tickets are sold on Eventbrite, so I encourage everyone to go. It's going to be held at Xavier Convocation Center. It's going to be probably the conversation of the century, because what this conversation does and the impact that it will have on this entire community, I think can transcend us to a world where literacy and dialogue plays a different role in our lives and how we view it, in the level of importance. And it helps us have these tough conversations about how do we solve some of the world's biggest issues. But it starts with us. How do we develop empathy for others that have been marginalized, that have been less fortunate, but also that carry different perspectives?
That's really important. And also, really quickly, what date is that again? So the date and time, so folks can make sure they can mark their calendars.
It is November 15th at 7 p.m. and at Xavier Convocation Center.
That is really good. And something I really one last question I want to ask you is, for all those young New Orleanians who might be watching this right now, who might be inspiring up and coming writers and authors or even entrepreneurs, what advice would you leave them with, and kind of thinking about some of the things that you've been able to do?
In James Baldwin words, read, 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 and when you can't read anymore, write. So you should read 10 minutes a day, but you should also journal. See, the journaling helps fortify those thoughts. There is no substitute for reading and writing. That's why it's one of the most basic academic things that you learn as a child. It's one of the first things that you learn as a child. Unfortunately, we go astray from that as we become adults. We very rarely do we write, and very rarely do we do long form reading. And it's just because life takes over. We get busy, we got responsibilities, we got bills, you got children, you got all kind of other things that divert our attention. But that's why we have to be intentional about our reading and writing, because what it does is the reading brings the knowledge in. The writing develops an understanding for the information. So that's why I would say, make sure you read every day, and then write. And I think you do that, then you're on a good path to success.
Well, I appreciate it so much, DJ, and I hope folks have learned something. I've learned a lot, so I know I'm going home to do some more reading because I need to be doing more reading, and hopefully it's inspired you as well. So thank you, everyone, and once again, be sure to follow us at veritenews.org. We'll have all the information about the upcoming event, so you can make sure you can get your tickets. I know it's going to be the conversation, as you mentioned, of the year, and so we definitely want you there. My name is EJ Johnson. We are off the porch here at Baldwin Company, and thank you so much again, DJ,
Man, it's a pleasure.
for the conversation.
Yeah, man.